What is good, guys, and welcome to another video, and welcome to my garage. This one's going to be a little bit different than what you've seen on the channel, but we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We're gonna break down the exact cost of what this car behind me cost me. In the past 5 years, I've saved every single invoice, every single part, every single maintenance item, every single modification. Every invoice for everything is in this binder, and what we're gonna do today is we are going to add everything up and see what the final dollar amount is for this car behind us. Should be pretty fun, and it should act as a good guide and a good data point to anybody who's thinking about purchasing a 997 turbo. Just know that you can't just buy these cars and expect them to just drive down the road perfectly. Something's gonna break. They're getting pretty old, and most of them that you find on the web, they are going to be needing lots and lots of service. The big three: coolant pipes, camshafts, and clutch. So I think that it's better to find a car that is well maintained with service history than it is to find a low mileage garage clean that has only had oil changes and a coat of wax put on the paint every once in a while. That's just me though, but this will give you a better idea of what it costs to own these cars and what it costs me to bring it up to snuff and par of the course. And I know it's not gonna be pretty, especially looking back on everything now and how much money I spent on the car. But hey, it's something that I love. So anyway, let's just get right into it. I think I'm going to need a drink for this one because it's not gonna be pretty. So I'll be right back. All right, so let's just get right into this. Date 02/07 of 2020. Vehicle purchased for $74,500. I purchased the vehicle down in Miami, and I had flown out there so I could do my own PPI on the car. The owner of the car at the time was a pretty cool dude, and he was very accommodating. But anyway, $74,500 is what I paid for the car, and the vehicle transport from Miami to Maryland was $1,030. The vehicle came with a BBI barcode exhaust. It was lowered on H&R springs over PASM, and it had a Cobb access port. So I got a few freebies off of it because I knew I was already gonna do that stuff anyway, so it was a plus for me. So I actually flew down there, inspected the car, did my own PPI on it, and then after I found out it was good, then we did the transaction and I sent it off on a trailer. That in itself is an entire story. So if you guys are interested to know how I came to acquire this car, let me know in the comments below and I'll make another video about it. All right, 02/14/2020, I inspected so I could get my tags in Maryland. That was $125. Taxes, titling, registration, and tag fees for Maryland, it came out to be $4,870. Right, date 03/18/2020, I replaced the left and right inner and outer CV boots and left and right damper bump stops and top hats. It came out to be $222.34. 03/22/2020, I performed a four-wheel alignment, free of charge, obviously, because it was my labor. I did the alignment myself. 05/04/2020, this is a big one. I removed the powertrain to perform the major service, like all the preventative stuff, the coolant pipes, camshafts. I've replaced every bit of rubber and every gasket and seal that's underneath that engine compartment. I replaced everything. And that total for just parts alone was $3,100. Now, that does not include me having to send one of the camshafts out to Todd at Protomotive. His charge for that was $380, but I also paid $400 in overnight shipping to and from because I'm just an impatient type of guy and I just wanted my parts back so I could get the car back on the road. So I paid more in overnight shipping for the shipping to Todd at Protomotive. It is what it is. 05/12/2020, I replaced front and rear brake pads and rotors, and I swapped to PCCB rotors and pads and calipers. Now, for those that don't know, this is my second 997 turbo. I owned a black 997 turbo 07, same spec as this, but that black coupe, that one had PCCBs on it. So when I sold the car locally here, me and the new owner, we kept in touch. And after I had bought this car, he reached out to me and said, hey, I don't want these PCCBs on my car. Do you want to swap? And I was like, yeah, absolutely I do. I love PCCBs. So he made me an offer and said, you know what, give me $5 grand and your brake calipers and buy me a new set of brake pads and rotors and we'll be good. And I said, no, I'll give you $3,000 and I'll buy you a new set of rotors and pads, and then you could have my calipers. And so that's what happened. So basically we did a brake swap, and I ended up paying $3,546.35 so I could have PCCBs on this car. 06-08 of 2020. This is probably the biggest mistake of my life, but I had removed the BBI barcode exhaust that came with the car. Regret it to this day. And I ended up selling it. I really didn't know what I had, and now I regret it fully because BTIM and BBI, they don't sell that exhaust anymore, and it sounded so epic. It sounded really good, even with high flow cats on there. It was just a badass exhaust, and it was just really well made. You could tell that the craftsmanship on that thing was just top notch. And I don't know why I sold it. I can't tell you to this day, but anyway, I sold it, and then I ended up buying a Klein stainless steel cat deleted exhaust because I thought it was just better, but obviously it's not. And so it was kind of like a wash. I sold the BBI exhaust, and I had used that money to buy the Klein exhaust, so we're at a kind of a wash there. But I did have to buy these O2 fouler's that keeps the check engine light off for catalyst efficiency codes. So that was $100 from Big Daddy's Garage. I'm not even kidding you, that's what the name of the place is that sells it, Big Daddy's Garage. Have not had one problem on this car since, and I'm still using the same O2 fouler's. All right, 06-13-2020, day after my birthday. Replaced rear shock absorber spring insulators and bump stops. That cost me $131.07. Date 09-18-2020. This was kind of a big deal for me, but I had got my VOLK Racing. This is Megatron. What's up, dude? What's going on? What's good? Just chill. You want to go inside? All right, so this is kind of a big deal, but on my old 997 turbo, I had these super rare VOLK Racing TE37s that I had bought from another Renless member from back in the day. He got probably the only known set of wide body spec wheels. The rear fitment was 19 by 11.5 plus 45. So as you well know, the most commonly is 19 by 11 plus 63 or somewhere in that area. And then, so I think this dude who I sold the wheels to originally from my black car, he reached out to me after I got the yellow one, and he said, hey, do you want your wheels back? I'm about to sell them. I was like, yes, absolutely, I do. So if you're watching this, man, thank you. And he even delivered it back down to Maryland from New Jersey. But anyway, that was $3,600, and I had to pay $225 to have one of the wheels straightened because there was a bit of a bend in one of the lips. I don't know what happened, but hey, get out of my shoes. What are you doing? All right. Date 09-27-2020. I installed a DSC Sport PASM module, and I bought that locally from a friend and a Renless member. If you're watching this, shout out to you, Dwayne. $750. Date 10-07-2020. I removed the front bumper cover, fender liners, and front cooling shrouds to vacuum debris out of the radiators. All right, well, so that was kind of like a freebie because it's just labor. 11-15-2020, I replaced the factory intercoolers with GT2 RS intercoolers, and I modified the shrouds. That ended up costing me $1,738.40. 11-18-2020, I replaced the fuel filter, and I don't have a price on there because I lost the invoice, and it's nowhere in here. So I'm just gonna leave that as a blank, but I don't think it cost me more than 150 bucks, whatever, I'm not including it. 11-27-2020, after I installed the GT2 RS intercoolers and after I replaced the fuel filter, I said, all right, well, let's go for more boost. And so what happened was we started street tuning, and my clutch slipped. And so I was under the impression that this car had an upgraded clutch in it, which is why I didn't do the clutch when I had the engine out the first time. And what happened was I reached out to the seller, and he was like, no, I just used the OEM dual mass flywheel with the factory pressure plate and friction disc, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, all right. So I know I needed to upgrade the clutch because obviously with more boost comes more torque. And when more torque is around with a factory clutch, it's not so happy. So I had to replace the clutch with what's known as a SAC stage 2.5 clutch. And it's basically when you take a 764 pressure plate, factory dual mass flywheel, and you could either pick between a sprung or unsprung friction disc. I picked the unsprung friction disc, and you piece that all together with a new release bearing and flywheel bolts and pressure plate and blah, blah, blah. Came out to be about 1,800 bucks. Date 01/02/2021, I installed, this is another big one. The day after New Year's Day, 01/02/2021, I found a listing for probably my favorite modification on this car. But they're the Porsche folding sports bucket seats, the GT2 carbon buckets. And I found the listing on Renlist, and they were, I think, 2 or 3 hours south in Virginia. And I reached out to the guy. I was like, you know, I think he had it listed for like 10 grand. Right, so I reached out to him and said, hey, Happy New Year. I'll buy the seats from you for $9 if you can make that work. And he agreed. And he said, if you could be here like tomorrow, then yeah, let's do it. So I drove down there with a friend. If you're watching this, thanks Mitch for driving down there in your truck with me. And we picked up the seats. I paid $9,000 for them. Brand new, dead stock, in the box. And as you well know, $9,000 for those seats right now. I mean, that's like, I have a capital gains on those seats for at least like 7 grand. Because right now on Bring a Trailer, beat up pairs are selling for like 15 or 16 grand. I think most recently a set sold for 20K. So yeah, I'm happy with that. But yeah, that was another big one. $9,000 for the GT2 carbon bucket seats. 02/20/2021. I removed the Klein exhaust, thank God, because that was like another mistake of my life. And I had JCHUTCH, if you're watching this, shout out to you, buddy, make me a custom titanium exhaust. So it's a 3-inch exhaust, X-pipe, and that was like the first iteration of it. It's been modified and it's been revised since. But yeah, that cost me 2,600 bucks for the exhaust, and then I sold the Klein for $2,000. So it's kind of like, all right, 600 bucks for an exhaust. I'm good with it. All right, 02/21/2021, I removed the multifunction steering wheel and airbag and installed the 997 GTS manual steering wheel and airbag. That cost me 850 bucks. That was not the steering wheel that you guys see in the car now, but a different one. 03/28/2021. I performed an oil change and 4-wheel alignment. That was 100 bucks. 04/16/2021. I purchased a roll bar and had it powder coated. The roll bar cost me 1,000 bucks. It was $200 to get it powder coated, and I installed that, so 1,200 bucks. Fun fact, the person who I bought the GT2 carbon buckets from is the owner of who makes my roll bar. What's up, man? 05/10/2021, I installed the GT2 side skirts. That was 800 bucks. 05/23/2021, I sublet it for paint correction and ceramic coating to my good friend, if you're watching this, John Cloak, around the clock, 650 bucks. Shout out to you, buddy. 05/31/2021, I installed a new windshield wiper cowl. That cost me $124.38. 08/20/2021, I built a special tool for boost testing. If you look at the video that I posted last year around this time, you'll see the special tool that I made. And I pressurized the system, and I found an air leak from behind the plenum, and the cause of the leak was a failed hose for the purge control solenoid. So that part number that I needed was 997.110.693.70. And the part at that time was not on hand, and it was in Germany, and I did not want to wait around for a hose to come in. So what I did was I used a Honda part to fix it. Honda part number 19521-RCA-A00 cost me $2.15, and it's been on the car ever since. I think it comes back as like a water hose, but shout out to you, Honda. Okay, 10/06/2021, I performed another oil change using Motul SAE 0W40 8100 X-Max, and I installed new wiper blades, $179.58. Those wiper blades, OEM wiper blades from Porsche, they're still on the car from 2021, but they're buku bucks. I don't know why. Okay, this is when the car starts looking the way that you guys are used to seeing it now. 11/12/2021, I installed BBS E88 wheels with Michelin PS4S tires and Baru TPMS sensors. exact fitment of the wheels are 19 by 9 plus 50, and the front tires are 255, 35, 19. Rear is 19 by 12 plus 42 to 325, 30, 19. And wheels and tires cost me $6,900. I placed the order for the wheels through Wheels Boutique. Shout out to David Nussbaum for helping me out with that, but I requested that they be delivered to me in pieces. That way I could put them together myself, because I just wanted that experience. And sure enough, he came through. And the wait time for these wheels nowadays, I think they're over a year, and I got them inside of 6 months, so that was a win. 11/20 of 2021. I didn't really need to do this, but I was just being my paranoid self, and I replaced the front and rear PCCB brake pads for $1,000 bucks. $1,007 is what I paid for some brake pads. 12/22 of 2021, I sold the VOLK Racing TE37 wheels and tires for $6,500 bucks. If you're watching this and you have those wheels, I'd like to buy them back from you. 02/19/2022, I did a driveline service, so I replaced the manual transmission fluid, the front differential fluid, and the all-wheel drive controller fluid. And I used genuine Porsche Delvac 75 weight 90, 75 weight 85, and it cost me $240 for the fluids. 08/25/2022, I installed OHLINS Road and Track coilovers plus the hardware. All in all, with the coilovers and the OEM hardware that I had to buy, was $4,600 bucks. 09/04/2022, I performed another 4-wheel alignment, and obviously that was free. All right, so 10/15 of 2022, mileage is 46,504. I removed the powertrain to repair an engine oil leak, and the source of the engine oil leak was identified to be an improperly sealed oil cooler housing. That was my bad from when I took the engine out initially and resealed everything. I had missed one little tiny spot with liquid gasket. Anyway, I'll try to link a video about it. But I removed all the necessary components to access and remove and reseal the housing, and I replaced all associated O-rings and gaskets. At the same time, I installed modified 63.5mm VGT turbos that I bought from Todd at Protomotive. I installed Torque Solutions high flow inlets, Borg Warner ignition coils, new spark plugs, installed intake manifold heat tape. If you guys haven't seen, I'll show you, but I wrapped my intake manifold in gold reflective tape to kind of mitigate some of the heat soak issues that these cars have. That took a long time. Installed Alpha AMS intercoolers. I bought those used from Renlister. I think he's also a seller, like a used car dealer in Westchester, PA, somewhere out there. But anyway, I bought those intercoolers from him, and if you're watching this, man, thank you for the deal, but at the same time, you need to learn how to package your delicate parts more thoroughly, because you can't just take intercoolers, shrouds, and piping and throw them all in a box with like no kind of foam, dude. Like, what the hell? Luckily, none of them leaked, but I got them in one piece. All right, and I performed an oil change. Total cost was $3,467. Remote tuning, Sam at By Design, shout out to you, $900. 12/17/2022, after I had the car running, I diagnosed the DTC that popped up, P2181. Thermostat stuck open, signal implausible. A piece of debris had fallen in there and then was preventing it from completely closing. And so I had to replace that, and I took that time to replace the water pump and gasket, ECT sensor, and left side coolant hose. And this cost me $106.66. 12/18/2022, I replaced the steering wheel that I had installed previously with a 991 steering wheel that you guys see in the car now. $1,500. Came with the airbag and the steering wheel. 9/27/2023, I performed an oil change that cost me $120. 10/01 of 2023, I performed a brake fluid exchange, and I got the brake fluid for free. Shout out to you. Yeah. And that's what we have so far. Most recently, I have, as you guys saw in my most recent videos, I replaced the inner and outer CV boots again. And that ended up costing me $300 because I used OEM inner CV boots. All right, so what does it all amount to? The car that you're looking at behind us came out to a grand total of $122,664.93. Now, I will say that I did forget to list a few bits and pieces in there, little small things here and there, like the European side markers that you see there, OEM front lips, things like that, disposable items. I also forgot to list that I do have an Evo MS GT2 clutch slave cylinder conversion kit. I think I got the last one available. I think the only GT2 conversion kit that's available now is the BBI one. I do plan to remove the powertrain again, and I'm gonna do the proper GT2 slave cylinder conversion, which is drilling out the bell housing and transferring over the GT2 release bearing fork. Also, the numeric shift cables, I do have that installed in the car. I believe that was from my previous 997 Turbo, and the new owner of that car took them out and gave them to me, and I threw a little bit of cash on top. So I'm just gonna add probably like $2,000 to that figure. So $124,664.93 is where we are at, which is not too bad considering that the original price for this car back in 2007 came out to be $131,520. So I am below MSRP on this car with this build in the way that you see it now. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that I could get well over $124,000 for this car the way it's sitting right now, especially with all the goodies on it. And I don't know, I'm not like a investment enthusiast like some of these other car people out there who just buy cars to just keep them in the garage and hold on to them until the price is right and the time is right for them to sell it and realize a gain. I'm not that kind of enthusiast. I'm the kind of enthusiast that actually enjoys working on the car, enjoys driving the car, and just enjoys the car in general. So yeah, I'm gonna rack up miles on the car. I'm gonna drive it. I'm gonna drive it hard because this is kind of like the fruits of my labor, you know. Everything on this car, like I said, has been done by myself in my own two hands. The only things that were sublet was the tuning and the ceramic coating by my buddy. So it's kind of like a passion project for me for this car, and I don't see myself stopping. So I'm gonna continue to modify the car, and I'm going to continue to just keep building it until it gets to a level where I'm just happy with it. Right now I'm happy with it, but I want to get to a level where I'm like really happy with it. And I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyway, keep in mind that that figure does not reflect my labor. So if you are thinking about getting into a 997 Turbo, that figure that we just talked about, $124,000 and some change, if you were to pay somebody to do all that work that this car has had, you're easily looking at another 15 to 20K in labor alone. So keep that in mind. I hope this hasn't strayed anybody away from the 997 Turbo ownership because it's such a great car. I highly recommend it to anybody. It's just a good all-around car that you could enjoy and use. And you know, I see a lot of people on Rentless now, they're getting into the DIY stuff. So I fully encourage that. And there's a lot of DIYers coming about that are doing the engine out services. This guy's doing the engine out services, the camshafts, the coolant pipes, and there's a wealth of knowledge out there. And I really hope that this video kind of helped elaborate on that. But anyway, we're gonna end this here. $124,000 and some change is where we're sitting at for this car behind us. And until next one, peace.